Hey there, and welcome into University of Hoops, the show that takes you behind the scenes of your favorite basketball team. Today, we welcome Greensboro Swarm head coach Jordan Surenkamp. Coach, welcome to the show.
Appreciate you having me. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely, coach. Let's just start off with the most obvious question that I'm sure people want to know. What is it like being a head coach at the NBA G League level?
Oh, it's every day is a different adventure, and that's a good thing. Before my head coaching tenure here, this is my third year. I was a video guy, and before that, I was an ops director in college and a grad assistant. So I had never had any head coaching experience going into this opportunity. So obviously thankful for the Hornets organization for giving me this opportunity for 3 years now. And you just learn something new every day. And it's really one of those cliche sayings that until you've really been able to be in a head coach's chair, you don't know the ins and outs of what it's really about. So there's just always something going on, always something you feel like, players you need to be talking to, front office people, player development stuff, worrying about upcoming scouts. It's just endless. So, but it's been a blessing. I've grown so much over 3 years, and you learn a lot about who you are as a person being a head coach because you figure out what your values are and what you stand for and the things that you turn into non-negotiables in the way that you address your team every day.
What is your day to day like being in that head coach chair?
Yeah, so it starts early because I'm one of those people where if I don't get up and work out first thing, it's not going to get done because so much stuff just happens throughout the duration of a day. So I'm usually up by 6:30 every morning. I try to get to the arena early, work out. That's a huge thing that I've learned. My first couple years when the season started, I quit caring about myself from like a physical standpoint. And it really affects you. So you got to find time to get away and relax, but you also got to have your routines with workouts and stuff like that. So I'll get in and do that in the morning. We meet every day as a staff to cover whether it's what we're going to go over at practice that day or, if we have a game that night, what our coverages are going to be, talking about scouting reports, personnel, all of that stuff. We have player development meetings where we're talking about where our guys are and the direction that we want them to go individually as well as a group. So a lot of those meetings happen early in the morning. Practice typically for us on a normal day is 11 to 1. So as the season goes along, that could be a full 2 hour practice. It could be 45 minutes of practice and skill development work, what have you. And then usually around this time, early afternoon, practice ends. And then guys get additional work on the court. I try to pull guys aside. It's really important for me as a head coach to have conversations with all of our players every day and interact with them. So I spend a lot of time after practice doing that. Usually they're out of the building by 2:30 or 3. And then I can just kind of go about what I really need to do for myself the rest of the day, whether that's watching more film. We have a game tomorrow, for instance, so I have to go home and start preparing for that or continue preparing for that. We have a team event this afternoon as well that I have to go to. So it's really just never ending stuff. And it's really day to day. It just kind of depends on the day and whether it's a game day or practice day or off day. Those are my days of the week. So it's just never ending. And then I'm an early bed guy because I get up early. So I'm in bed by 9 o'clock every night.
Hey, me too, coach. I've always kind of feel I'm like, man, like, should I be going to bed this early at a younger age? But like, I don't know. I like it. Like, I
It's
don't know.
it's
So
awesome. I
it's,
love
and
it.
then,
Put the phone on do not disturb and
yeah.
see you tomorrow.
And then, like you said, like, then you can get that earlier start. And especially with your schedule being the head coach at the NBA G League level, it gives you, got to have that time for yourself. So really,
For sure.
yeah. So definitely makes a lot of sense. I feel like that's probably relatable to a lot of people, no matter what they're doing in life. What's your favorite part of your job?
Oh man. I really love the G League because there are so many guys at this level that are just hungry for the next opportunity. I think from my standpoint as a head coach, my favorite piece has to be the relationships that you build with guys, because some of these guys have played years in the NBA and are veterans. Some guys have never had an opportunity to play in the NBA. Some guys are back and forth, right? So you get a different taste of a little bit of everything while you're at this level. But just the relationship piece, like getting to know guys past who they are as players, right? Getting to know, about their families, their significant others, what they're passionate about outside of basketball. They have pets, like what they do in their spare time. Like that kind of stuff is really cool to me. And I've learned over the years that the more engaging you are with just caring about who they are as people, it allows you to coach them at a different level than what you're usually allowed to, you know? So that's probably the best part about it is just and that's why I love coaching in general is I just genuinely appreciate and value the opportunity to help people every single day. That's why I got into this. It has nothing to do with me. I would be coaching YMCA, youth league if I wasn't doing this. It's just something that I've always been drawn to. So I think just the relationship piece and the challenges, right? There's never, there are very few just days that just run by without something coming up. And those are challenges, whether it's issues on the court, fixing things, adjustments, or player development, so whatever it is, right? Facing those challenges with other individuals and really just doing hard things together. And to me, that's a really fun piece to all of this.
Coach, I grew up in SoCal covering high school sports, including Sierra Canyon, and got a chance to watch Amari Bailey in person a bunch of times. One of the best scorers and overall high school players I ever saw in Southern California, which is a big statement considering the talent pool that's out there. I'm wondering from your standpoint, being his coach, what's it been like coaching him and how is his game translating to the G League level?
Yeah, he's awesome. So, I've gotten to work with him as soon as like the draft ended and he got to Charlotte. Him and I have been working together. So we talk about like the relationship piece. Him and I have a fantastic relationship. And the fact that he's been with us for a majority of this year here in Greensboro is awesome for his development because he's getting really, really important reps every single day, whether it's at practice, the extra PD stuff we're doing for him. The games, all of this stuff. It's been fantastic for him. And, his just ability to find a way to put the ball in the basket is really special. He does things sometimes that, I've been around the game long enough that I feel like you've seen it all, and he still finds ways to surprise me. And I think that's just a testament to his overall potential and his talent as a player. Just a knack for getting to the paint, getting to the rim, finishing around the rim, making plays for others. His athleticism gives him versatility on both sides of the ball. All of those things translate, and then you talk about, his development pieces. So obviously trying to clean up the jump shot a little bit. And that's something where, he's gotten better in every statistical category from the beginning of our season to where we are today, which is a testament to him and his work ethic. But really him shooting the ball at a high level is something that, we're trying to work on consistently. And then also him being like a primary point guard. He's always been a scoring guard. That's always been what he's been told to do. Get the ball, go get a bucket, right? So now we're teaching him, how do you organize the other four guys on the floor? How do you read pick and rolls? Where do you get the ball to your teammates when we need a basket and you may not have it going, right? So helping him develop into a more well-rounded, decision maker, playmaker, stuff like that has been a big piece to it. But everything he does, translates kind of naturally, and he's had it from day one. And just his commitment and willingness to want to be here and get these reps and do it through the G League process has been fantastic and awesome to see.
The last thing I want to ask you about the G League is how rewarding is it when you see guys, especially as a coach, that you have a hand in developing that then get that opportunity and get that call up to the big league?
Yeah, it's really cool. And I think one thing that's special about it is, you're obviously biased towards your guys in the locker room. Like the guys you're coaching, like right now, the guys I'm coaching are my priority, right? And they will always be that. But it is cool to see guys that you've even, coached in the past do those types of things. I think a great example, and I was just texting with him the other day, is Ashton Hagans. So Ashton Hagans from Kentucky played with us in Greensboro last year, ended up going to the Trailblazers, right, being with their G League affiliate this year in another situation that obviously benefits him. And then him getting his call up with the Trailblazers. That's something that I saw and was like, man, like that's so awesome. So it's really cool about the G League is obviously you're focused on the guys in your locker room every day, but it's really a brotherhood of guys just trying to, take that next step and continue to improve and get better. So anytime you see guys across the league getting those types of opportunities, it's always refreshing. You feel great as a coach, obviously, if you have a big piece in it, or a piece in it in general. But no, it's really cool and it's really special. And those guys obviously work their tails off and deserve every opportunity they get.
Coach, now that we've talked more about what you're doing now and your responsibilities as a coach in the G League, I want to go way back to the beginning. And if you don't mind, kind of just talk people through how you got your start in basketball and take people along your journey up to your point where you are
Yeah,
now.
Yeah, so I'm 33 now, so I feel way older. You're talking about going way back. So I played Division III basketball in Indiana. I was born and raised in Indiana. I played at Wabash College, which is a um, pretty top tier Division III basketball program. My 3 of my 4 years I was there, we were ranked in the top 25. Uh, this past year they went to the Division III Final Four, so it's a really good program. I was coached by Mac Petty, who is one of the more respected coaches in Division III history. Right, he's won national championships, all of that. So, I've always like basketball's always been my thing. Growing up in Indiana, that's what you're raised to love. It was the one sport that I really was passionate and cared about. Played college ball for 4 years. And then when I graduated, I thought that was it. I was getting my degree in economics and rhetoric, and I was going to go on to the business world and figure it out. And the first 3 or 4 months after my senior year, I didn't do anything basketball related, and I just felt like a huge piece of me was missing. So when I realized that that was just who I am, and basketball is just a huge piece of who I've become, even. I just tried to find as many ways as I could to hang around the game. So I didn't know what that looked like at the time. I was working out former teammates, even when I was still in school, just trying to stay around the game, playing in open gyms, whatever it is. And then I got the opportunity during the summers. I used to work basketball camps all the time, right? Like the kid basketball camps at different universities. And I was really well connected at Butler University. And those were the years where Brad Stevens was there in the back-to-back national championships. So I knew Coach Stevens really well. His lead assistant at the time took a job at a mid-major at the University of South Alabama in Mobile. So once I graduated, I ended up getting an opportunity to go be a grad assistant there. And that was just a very eye-opening experience, even coming from Division III. So just learned a ton as a grad assistant there for 2 years, got my master's, and then was promoted to director of basketball operations. Did that for 3 years. And was just continuing to find ways to try to move up the ladder and get another opportunity. And was really just blessed to work alongside of some really awesome people, like some of the best staffs and individuals you could imagine, who really helped me become a better person, not just a better coach. One of my close friends from my time in college was Ronald Norred, who's with the Atlanta Hawks now currently. He ended up being the head coach of the G League team in Long Island, the Long Island Nets. So when I was an ops guy in college, he called. They had a video coordinator position open with the Nets. I applied, went through the interviewing process with Brooklyn, ended up getting the job. And that I kind of from there moved into the professional world, did the video thing for a year in Brooklyn, then got a job with the Charlotte Hornets, under James Borrego, who was our coach at the time. Was an assistant video coordinator for Charlotte for 1 year. And then Coach Borrego promoted me to head video coordinator. So then I was head video coordinator in Charlotte for 3 years. And then, continuing to, try to just gain the trust of everybody in the organization and find, continuing to better myself. Went into Coach Borrego's office one day and he asked me how I would feel about being the head coach of the G League team. And again, I'd never been a head coach before, but I knew that it was going to be a challenge unlike anything I had ever experienced before. And I'm always, the first person to head towards the fire when it comes to challenging things. So took that opportunity and, 3 years later, here now. So that's kind of the pit stop version of what it was. Obviously, a lot of different people, a lot of different, influences, a lot of different, experiences led into all of those different opportunities. And I could sit here for the next hour and tell you all the people that I owe thanks and credit to for helping me get here. But yeah, it's been a blessing. It's been an unbelievable journey to this point, and just, continue to make the most of it every day.
So you talked about how it was a challenge. You looked at it as a good challenge to kind of get outside your comfort zone when you had done video coordinator work at the NBA level, and then Coach Borrego gave you that opportunity to become the head coach. Now that you've been doing it for a little bit, what are some of the best parts about it, and what are some of those more challenging parts about it that you continue to accept and learn from?
Yeah. So there's it's infinite benefits, right? In terms of those types of things. So I think I tell our group all the time here, like handling hard things is because every business you're in, every position you're in, every role you're in, regardless if it's coaching, whatever world you're in, right? There's always going to be some type of like something's going to happen, right? So we talk about resiliency all the time. We talk about handling hard better. Those are really just key pieces of who I am. I just think that, if you don't try to challenge yourself, right, then you never have an opportunity to grow. And you have to be comfortable with not settling for failure, right? Because failure is a natural part of progression, but understanding that failure is a part of the process that helps you become better. So, um, my first year, I thought I had all the answers because I was a video guy for 4 years and all I did was watch film 16 hours a day, it felt like, right? So I came into year one of being a head coach. I had all these plays, man, we're going to run this offense. We're going to run these coverages. We're going to do these like special situations. And I had this whole book planned out of how I wanted everything to go. And after I got through my first year of being a head coach, I realized that like X's and O's are great. None of it really matters, to be honest with you. Everybody runs the same stuff. At the scouting process, you're going to figure out what other teams are running. You're going to have your coverages to how to stop it. What really matters are the people in the locker room and the people that are in the offices with you. So I think the challenge for me in year one was understanding that it's not as much about the X's and O's as it is the relationship pieces, right? So that was a little bit of a struggle for me in my first year. Having for the first time in my life to have difficult conversations with people, telling guys that, hey, you've been playing 20 minutes a night for us for the last 3 weeks, but Charlotte's going to assign somebody to play with us for the next month, and now you're not going to play at all, right? Having those tough conversations with players, helping, holding guys accountable in the film room, like not letting them take things for granted, right? Like those were very difficult things for me early on because I'd never experienced those things before, right? So you talk about like what things have been challenging for me. I think that was year one, the biggest eye opener ever. And then year two, totally different approach, spent way more time on relationships. And I just felt the entire dynamic change of how I was coaching and who I was becoming. And those things have made me who I am today. And that's why those things are still so important to me now. But those are the types of challenges that I dealt with year one. You have one roster one night, and then Charlotte recalls the two guys that just played 40 minutes for you, and now your roster looks totally different. And now you play 2 games with a different roster, and then they send the guys back, and then you're on the road, and this team assigns another player. So you had certain coverages planned for this game, but now this guy's playing for them instead of this guy. So now you have to change it. Like all of that stuff is a challenge. And it's just something that I've embraced. And I've just learned that, embracing those difficult things, you learn how to handle them better. And from there, it just really, you take off from there.
You talked about giving back to people that were there for you, and we actually had one of the people that you helped along the way, Daniel Roy from the Chicago Bulls. He was our first guest on the show that we ever did, about a month and a half, 2 months ago now. Can you explain how important it is to give back once you are in a position to help?
Yeah, I mean, it's incredibly important. And Daniel Roy is probably a top 5 human being on this planet. He's awesome, and I'm thankful for my friendship and my relationship with him. Obviously, he's with the Chicago Bulls now. We worked together long hours, late nights, early mornings for years. So him and I have a relationship and a brotherhood and a friendship that'll always be there because of those things that we've done together. But I think back to myself even as a college student, right? Trying to find a grad assistantship or trying to find a coaching job right out of college. Just all of the emails and the handwritten letters and the different things that I did to try to reach out just to get advice from people, when you're at that stage in your life, you're still trying to figure everything out, right? So the more advice I could get or the more people I could connect with just from a standpoint of being able to ask questions of how they handled situations or how they approached certain things it was awesome, but it was a lot of work, and I just think back to the hundreds of letters I wrote and how much it meant to me to hear back from 3 or 4 people, right? And that's one thing that I'll always value and appreciate about Brad was when Brad was at Butler, he responded to every email. He wrote me back every letter. He texted me back every time I texted him. He called me back every time I called him, right? Him and his staff all did that. And then obviously he took the job in Boston, right, with the Celtics, and he was the exact same person. Every time you text him, would text you back. Every time you email, and that just meant a lot to me. Being a grad assistant, being a college student, right? Like I don't want to bother people, but at the same time, it's like when these people are respectful enough and care enough that they're able to respond to you, I just remember how that made me feel. So now that I feel like I'm in a position where people are reaching out to me, right? I try as much as I can, um, whether it's a DM on Instagram, whether it's an email, whether it's a text message, whether it's a phone call, I try to get back to everybody. And I'm not perfect. When you get into the season, you forget things, your mind's in a million places, but I absolutely do my best just because I remember being in that position and how much it helped me and how it made me feel. So uh, that's just something that I've always kept with me. And I think it's just been a testament to the people that I've been around and their willingness to do it. I think it's just a thing that I'll always do.
Going back a little bit to your time with the Charlotte Hornets at the NBA level, what are some of the things that you learned there specifically, that are helping you in your job right now? And what are some of those best moments that you look back at and you think, wow, that was really cool working in the video room there?
Yeah. Well, I mean, just being a part of, as a head video coordinator, I was a part of every coach's meeting. I ran the film in every coach's meeting. So while a lot of the times I was a fly on the wall, especially early on, I mean, you're just surrounded by some of the best minds in the basketball world, right? And they're just sitting there talking through how do you want to handle certain coverages? How do you want to stop player X? How do you want to run certain things offensively? Why do you want to run it this way versus this way? Like all of those things, I had my little notepad on the side as I was running the film. I'm just sitting here taking notes and I'm saving everything we do. I keep all of our edits, I keep all of our coaches' notes, I keep all of our practice plans. Like all of those types of things taught me lessons because it taught me or it allowed me to see the level of detail that goes into coaching at this level. Because when you're playing against and with the best players in the world, the minute details of how you do things matter, right? So from a coaching standpoint, it helped me realize, how I wanted to organize things because I would listen to Coach Borrego or even Coach Clifford. Coach Clifford's here now in Charlotte. You listen to them. How do they prepare their practices? What are their minds? What's their mindset on what they want to accomplish? How do they address the team? How do they talk in coaches meetings versus how do they address players, right? Like all of those different dynamics play hand in hand. And just to be a fly on the wall for a lot of it it just gave me invaluable information that I've taken with me. And obviously there's no cookie cutter way to do things, but it does give you an idea, of those types of things. So the way I run practice today in Greensboro is still very similar to how they run practice in Charlotte because I watched it, I experienced it, and now I've tweaked things so that it works better for us. But all of those experiences in Charlotte leading up to that was really cool. And then just your relationship with the players, because as a video coordinator, you're on the court all the time. You're guarding players, you're rebounding, you're jumping in drills. And I just remember my first year in Charlotte being with Kemba Walker, Tony Parker was here, right? Like Nick Batum, like some of these guys, Cody Zeller, like some of these guys that I still have really good relationships with, just being on the floor with them. And it's like, man, like I'm on the floor with Tony Parker, like small kid from the middle of nowhere in Indiana guarding Tony Parker in a drill. It's like surreal, right? And then to see like Kemba Walker that year get an all-star nod. Like those types of things are just experiences that I'll always have.
That's incredible stuff, man. And I just got to tell you, as a hoops head, I'm just sitting here, just like loving everything that you're talking about. It's great stuff, man. I'm entertained sitting here
Good.
just listening to you. So I appreciate it a lot. We talked about, a lot about sort of like the advice and the intel that you have sort of been given.
Mhm.
And now that you're at the point where like you're a head coach in the G League and you've had these different stops, I'm really curious. And I think that a lot of our audience would be really curious. Like, what advice do you have for people, for younger people that are trying to break into the basketball business?
Yeah, I think for somebody, I think this is like a two-sided thing. So for somebody trying to break into the business, right? Like you have to understand that you are going to have to work really, really hard for a long time, and you're not going to get a lot of stuff handed back to you right away. So you've just got to be fully committed to the process of learning and growing and understanding how to be a sponge in every opportunity that you have. And I think that's the most important piece. When I was a grad assistant, I made $5,000 a year. That was it, right? When I was a ops guy for the first 2 years, I made $20,000. You know what I mean? So if you're getting into the coaching world to make a ton of money, you're not like you're in it for the wrong reason, right? So being available, right? Like I go back to even your guys's podcast with Daniel Roy. Like that's one thing he said, right? It's a super easy thing, but just always being available and always willing to help. 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. When I was Coach Borrego's head video coordinator, he would call me at 3 a.m. if he had a question, and I picked up every single time. It was a non-negotiable. So just your availability, I think, goes a long way in whatever role you're in. I think the next layer to that is being so good at your job that the coaches trust you with the next thing, right? So many people in this business get to the next spot. Okay, I was a grad assistant. Now I'm an ops guy, and you're in your first year being an ops guy, and you're already worried about trying to find a way to be an assistant coach. And so you just have to be really, really good in the role that you're currently in, and that's how you build the trust with the people you work with. And when you build that trust, that's where your next opportunities come from. So always being available is a big piece to it. Always being willing to work. It's going to be long hours. It's a thankless job a lot of the times, right? So just your willingness to be a sponge and understand that every opportunity you're in is an opportunity to learn, right? And then just being an all-star in the role that you're currently in. Quit looking for the next opportunity. Quit worrying about where you're going to be next year, and just focus on what you're doing every day and maximizing those days. I think that's the most important advice I was ever given, and the best thing that I was ever able to do was just be available, earn trust, and just be really good in the role that I was in. And then from a head coaching standpoint, for those who are just, first year head coaches or going into coaching at any level, just be yourself. Like players at every level are way smarter than you think. And the moment you start to pretend that you're somebody else, they catch on and you lose all value and trust and respect for guys in the locker room. So I'm a weird dude. I make bad jokes. I laugh. I run around. I'm super high energy. That's just who I am. But I am myself every single day when I come in here. And I think finding out who you are as a person goes a long way with who you are as a coach. And the more you're able to consistently bring your own self to work, right, I think the better off and the more success you'll see yourself having.
Awesome stuff, coach. Appreciate that. So in terms of kind of just like, I mean, you at a young age have worked across so many different areas of the basketball space, right? And especially like at even like within the NBA, which of course is so hard to get to in any facet, obviously, whether you're a player or a coach or a video coordinator, whatever you're trying to do there, to be able to, you worked in the video room, now you're a coach. What are some of the tools, like specifically, whether it's like software or it's like personal qualities or like you've talked about relationship building, what are some of those tools that you would recommend people to sort of like pick up and learn if they do want to work, at like the NBA level or the G League level?
Yeah, I think from a software standpoint, like sports code is obviously the first thing that sticks out. Huddle sports code, like whether you're a coach, whether you're a video guy, whether you're a intern, whatever you are, you're always going to have to be able to operate sports code. So if you have an opportunity to get a sports code license or take a class on sports code or whatever, that is the primary piece. When I was hiring people in the video room in Charlotte as a head video coordinator, that was the number one thing we looked for, was people that were proficient in sports code and knew what they were doing with it. So from a software standpoint, that to me is the biggest piece. Second Spectrum is another analytical, software that we use in the NBA. Synergy is obviously something everybody's heard of. Like the basic software stuff translates right throughout. You're using it in college, you're using it at the pro level, you're using it in high school, wherever, right? So those are the things I would recommend from there. From a personality or from a trait standpoint, just being very humble in the role that you're in, right? I think that sometimes people can get caught up in almost trying to do too much at times. So I think obviously being an all-star in your role, I've already talked about that, and being really good at what you're supposed to be doing, right? But also understanding that like this is a business where there's a lot of people that have a lot of different responsibilities. So just being really good at understanding what your responsibilities are and doing those. And then as you find yourself doing those things consistently, that's when like the next opportunity and the next level of responsibility will come from. So I think just being humble in your role. I talk to my assistants all the time about challenging me as a head coach. So if you're an assistant coach or whatever, like agreeing with everything the head coach says is the worst way to do things. Like I get mad at my staff when we sit in meetings and I ask their thoughts and everybody agrees. Like I want somebody to challenge me in some capacity. So thinking outside the box, willing to have difficult conversations, like all of those things I think are really important. But it's really just being who you are, right? Like being who you are as a person, not pretending to be something you're not worried about stuff that's out of your control, right? Those are the things that get you your next job and your next opportunity. It's not always, I'm supposed to be doing this, but I'm actually going to do this, and that's going to get me the job. That's not how this business works. So it's really just focusing on who you are and what your responsibilities are, and just doing those to the best of your ability every day.
What's the best piece of advice you've been given by an NBA colleague that you feel like would be useful for the people out there to hear?
Oh man, the best piece of advice. You know, I'm trying to find something different because the stuff I've been talking about is really the stuff that I've been advised to. Um, yeah, that's a great question because I mean, even to today, I get advice all the time about just all types of stuff. The biggest thing is just like the authenticity piece. Because at this, like, especially at the NBA level and the G League level, like these guys know. So, like, if I'm trying to be like, you know, something I'm not, they're going to figure it out. So that's the best piece of advice for me is just be yourself and be authentic. Um, the next piece of advice is, and I learned this as a first year head coach, is everybody wants to be a player's coach, right? Like everybody wants their players to love playing for them. They want them to play hard for them and stuff like that. And the easiest way to not allow that to happen is to just not hold guys accountable. So that's like the next piece of advice is you've got to be the bad guy sometimes. You've got to hold guys accountable. And it's not even really being the bad guy, but good players and players that are going to have success in their careers are the guys that want to be held accountable and want to be challenged. So don't shy away from, challenging your best players. Don't shy away from holding guys accountable to the standards. Like we have a list of non-negotiables that are in our locker room. And I'm not a yeller. I don't think that screaming and yelling is a way to coach. Everybody has their own way. So I'm not sitting here saying it's wrong. I don't believe in that. I believe in productive conversation. And I think that the way you speak to guys and the level of respect you give them is a way to help empower them and move them forward and help teach them. I don't think you have to scream at them, but there are times where I tell them like the only thing I'm going to yell at you or lose my mind over is if you don't do these things, and it's my non-negotiable. So it's competing, right? Playing unselfishly, and being a really good teammate, and then like the execution and organization piece. Like those are the three things we talk about every day. If you play hard and you're a good teammate, we can figure everything else out, right? So, yeah, I mean, that's probably the best thing I can think of. But I mean, those things are endless. Like I could sit here and ramble about all the advice I've been given over the years, and it's all had an impact.
What do you think is the best way to grow your network in the basketball space?
Uh, build genuine relationships. I know that like that's a very cliche thing. Um, and I can use this as an example. Obviously, I have people that reach out to me all the time, whether it's about opportunities, it's about helping them find other opportunities, whatever it is. And, I think back to when I was that person looking for a job. Um, the thing that agitates me the most now about being a head coach in this business are the people that reach out and want advice, and you take time out of your day, you talk to them on the phone for 20 minutes, whatever, and they're like, thanks, coach. And then you never hear from them again. And then a year down the line, now they want a job, so they're calling you back, right? Like just putting someone's name in your phone book or getting a business card or like saying, oh, I've met this guy, like that doesn't do anything for you networking wise, right? Like building genuine relationships where you're calling people just because you care about their well-being, you care about who they are as people, asking how their all-star break went, right? How's their family doing? Just checking in. How are you doing like personally, right? Like those are the types of relationships that you build that end up turning into networking things that help you down the line, right? Just calling a person one or two times just to say you talk to them on the phone or have their phone number or you text them, right? Like those things don't create value, in my opinion. And from a head coaching standpoint now, where I've been responsible for hiring members of my staff, hiring interns, video coordinator, whatever, I'm always going to go back first to the people that I feel like genuinely care about me as a person and the well-being of our relationship. I'm not going to reach out to the people that talked to me one time, just for the sake of saying that they did it, right? So I think less is more in a lot of ways. So maybe you're not reaching out to as many people, but you're really nurturing the relationships that you are building. Like those to me are very, very important. And then there's no better relationship than with the people that you're currently working with, because the people that you work with every single day are going to be the people that help get you your next opportunity or are willing to go to bat for you, because this is a reputation business in a lot of senses, where the thought processes of everything and who's hiring who or whatever, you're always going to go back to who worked with that person and how that experience went. So obviously the networking stuff is important, but like focusing on the people that you're around every day and pouring yourself into them, I think is a primary piece to that. And then the relationships and the networking outside of the people you work with every day, like nurturing those relationships every day and make sure that you're doing it out of like the genuineness of who you are as a person and not just because you think somebody can help you down the road. You know what I mean? And there's no person in this business that's too big or too small. Like I have a Hornets logo on my shirt. That doesn't mean anything to me. Some of the best knowledge and information I've been given have been my former high school coaches, guys who coach in middle school, right? Like you can learn from everything. Like I go back through and watch high school basketball offensive 5-out concepts sometimes. You know what I mean? You can learn from everybody. So genuine relationships, focusing on and pouring into the people you work with every day, and then understanding that this business, there's a lot of really good high school coaches that would be great NBA coaches too. You know what I mean? So just understanding that regardless of the level you're at, like coaching is coaching, and understanding that you can learn from everybody.
Coach, you've been super gracious with your time and we really appreciate it. The last thing I'm going to ask you that we ask all of our guests on the show last is, what is your why behind what you're doing in basketball?
Oh, so my why, I've read the book, Simon Sinek book is all. I'm a big like social psychology guy. Like that's something I'm really passionate about. Mine is to energetically and positively empower others to achieve their dreams. That's my why. I want to be a positive stop in everybody's lives that I come across. And I want to use my platform as a coach to empower their lives in a positive manner. Right. I think that's how coaching should be. I think coaching should be way more positive than it is negative. I think it should be more empowering than it is tearing down. And I just think that influencing lives of people through that system and through that manner, so that they can achieve their dreams, is why I wake up every day to do what I do.
Coach, thank you so much. Is there anything else you want to add?
Nope. I really appreciate you guys having me on. This is awesome what you guys are doing. And um, obviously love to stay in contact. And like we've talked about, helping out anybody I can. And, you know, all of that is available. So don't hesitate to reach out.
Appreciate you a lot, Coach. That's Jordan Surenkamp from the Charlotte Swarm. That's the head coach of the NBA G League's Charlotte Swarm. We really appreciate you joining the show, Coach, and thank you for watching and listening to University of Hoops. To our viewers and listeners, we're posting content every single week at UNIV Hoops. That's at Univ Hoops on YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok. Just dishing out lots of little gold nuggets, just like Coach just dished out throughout the course of this interview, just to try to give people an inside look at to what it takes to make things happen on your favorite basketball team. Thanks again so much for watching and listening, and we will see you next week.